Yeah,
But
I don't. I mean, I hired all these expensive artists, including one that was $900, and he worked for Marvel. And I even said, make sure you leave enough room at the top for a title. And no, he did not.
Of course not.
Like, so it's a virgin cover now,
and that's a bane of all letterers too. When the artwork is like so intense.
Yeah.
They
Actually,
have no
I'm glad
room but then they
my
have 2 paragraphs that got to get in there, you know. So it's like,
that's
oh,
me. I have like these paragraphs in there. But my artist is pretty good because he actually lettered, and then he hated it, but he actually lettered the first 7 issues, so he knows that it has to have room. So he's gotten pretty good now for the letterer I hired. So he got lucky because even my letter's like, he leaves a lot of room. I was like, he had no choice.
Well, when I send thumbnails, I lay out where the lettering would probably be so that the artist knows to kind of leave that space open. And so I try to kind of mitigate it before I get the pages, you know, so I don't have to play that game later on. But it happens, you know, so it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, designers don't always have the capacity to do sequentials. Yeah, that's true. Like even Amy's that way a little bit. Like she
could doing the character
unbelievable artist, but like cannot do sequential storytelling, you know.
Well, I'm going to be totally honest. I love my artist like more than any other artist I've ever used or want to use. He is awful at covers. Like I have to when it comes to the script, I barely leave a line and he does everything. If I write a whole paragraph for the cover, it's still not like, I'm like, no, that's not what I want. I don't know why. I tricked him once by making it an extra page and it worked. And I was like, why can't I do this all the time? So for whatever reason, he hates doing cover arts, but if he thinks it's a page and like a splash page, he's fine. So I don't know. I can't.
Well, that's like some people are like that too. Yeah. They can just do pinups and covers and things like that. But then sequentials is its own beast, you know. So like I get that, you know.
Speaking of artists, I read that you in your new book, Corissa, that you have a new colorist and letterer.
Yes.
So what made that happen, or why is
my artist hates coloring and he hates lettering. So I had the option of raising his rate or hiring 2. So I was like, well, I'll just hire 2 new ones, I guess. So I actually hired a colorist and a letterer. He hated lettering. Like he started it. I did not ask him to letter. The first thing he ever gave me was yeah, he started it, and then we got in a fight about it because like whatever.
Well, I find like from a lettering point of view, like I've had to fight with like some of the artists and stuff because like they don't like so the writer will give me like 2 paragraphs of stuff to fit in a panel, and like it almost tramples on the entire panel, like because it's like so wordy and stuff. And the artists are just sometimes so in love with their work that they don't want to see, you know, the word balloons ruining it. And it's just sometimes it's just not enough room to put them there, you know. Like I like when I letter my own stuff because then I can kind of change dialogue and move things around. But most people don't have that luxury, you know. So
I have a funny story. So when I first started making comic books, which was only a year ago, and I said the infamous words, you know, how hard can it be? So my very first script, my letterer said, did you plan to see any of the arts or did you just want dialogue? So the first script I wrote wound up being the first 3 scripts I wrote because it was just so much dialogue. I learned to but I don't compromise. I actually got lucky because the way my artist does it, well, I cut, you know what the thing is, I cut down my panels. So I only give him like 4 to 5 panels. So there's always plenty of room for dialogue, or he can make the picture, you know, bigger or whatever. So I refuse to cover the art mostly for dialogue. So fortunately, and for some reason, my letterer, who's absolutely amazing, the only thing he always does, I had to keep drilling it into his head. He puts the sound of what happens on top of what happens. It's like, I want to see the picture. Don't cover up, put it to the side, like something. But other than that, I don't like to cover the art up at all, you know?
Yeah, there's ways to get around that. Like I recently learned how to put sound effects behind the action.
Yeah, he started doing that, yeah.
And then like also, you can do the, just the outline so that like the picture shows through the sound effects. So I could do that sometimes, especially with explosions, you know.
You need one of those books, the thing on the side, you push the button of what sound it is making. You know, I'm talking about those like those kids' books.
Oh yeah.
My letter. I fortunately, he's like, you're the boss, but like he did not want to do thought bubbles. He didn't want thought balloons. He wanted the boxes. I said, nope, boxes are so impersonal that my characters need, you know, because mine are really intense thoughts, you know, especially Draven. He has these deep thoughts and he's always struggling, you know, with feelings.
I like thought balloons. It's like old school comics too, you know.
Yeah. I love him. I know he really didn't want. He's like, you sure that's not what you do now? I was like, I don't care.
No, some people are bringing it back though. Like I've done thought bubbles on some recent projects, so some people like it. You know, it just depends on the, you know, who's doing it and you know that kind of thing. You know.
Oh, that and the Whisper. I didn't like how he originally did Whisper. It was he grayed it out, and I found it harder to read. I was like, no, I want the old little dashes that go around.
Yep.
And he was like,
yeah, that's the way to do it.
I was like, you're doing that.
I hate when they do whispers and they make the font really tiny. Like
I was like,
that's awful. I don't like
font that. And the bubble was gray. And it was hard to read. Like it was too small for me to read. I was like, I'm dyslexic. You can't have these little tiny things in there. It's like, I was like,
I think one of the worst lettering things that's happened in recent years is like more DC, I think, does it. But like whenever they have a demonic character talk and it's always like red wording with black word balloons.
The worst.
It's so hard to read. Like so
yeah,
like
my demons have they just have the red outline of the balloon. And the angels have a gold on it. He did the new demon with it colored in, but it doesn't look too bad. He's like, I changed the font. And I was like,
as long as it's readable, like you could do some fancy stuff with the balloons and stuff, but like the most important thing is you're able to read it, you know.
Legible is somewhat important when reading a comic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. 100%.
Reading the logo.
Yeah, the logo, yeah.